Well, hello, and welcome once again to 25 o'clock. I'm your host, Dan Drago. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in, downloading, streaming, listening. You get your earbuds in. Maybe you're listening in the car. I don't know. I don't know your life, and frankly, I don't need to know your life, and, you know, that's cool. That's how we have it. Welcome to the show. Welcome to 25 o'clock. On the show this week, Philadelphia singer-songwriter, soul artist, amazing dude, and a guy that I've been fortunate enough to call my friend for many, many years, Ben Tinsley. We'll talk more about Ben in just a little bit. But first off, happy holidays to you all, be it Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. I don't know when Ramadan is. I think it's around this time. I'm not sure. I've just revealed a whole lot of my own ignorance right there publicly, but that's fine. There are some things I don't know about, and I don't really know about that. So happy holidays to y'all. Whatever holiday it is that you're celebrating right now or not celebrating, I don't know. I don't want to say it's dicey this time of year talking about this kind of stuff because I don't think it needs to be, but you know, I don't want to make anyone feel left out where they're just like, oh, I don't celebrate a holiday. Maybe you're Jehovah's Witness and you don't celebrate holidays in the way that other people do. I don't want to make you feel bad. So happy good time that it is now to you, and a happy new year. We can all agree on the new year, or many of us can agree on the new year. Again, not all cultures agree on when the new year begins or ends. This is, I don't know. Everyone have a good time right now is what I'm saying. Anyway, if you want to have a good time, go to 25o'clockpod.com. Wow, that sounded suggestive. 25o'clockpod.com. That's the website for the show here. You can check out past episodes in the archives. You can check out the Friends and Neighbors page, which is a cool little thing that I do. That's links and information for anyone and everyone who's ever been on the show. So if you heard an old episode and say, hey, I want to know about that person, you can go to the Friends and Neighbors page, click on that person and find their website, find their records, find their work, find everything up there about them. That's all at 25o'clockpod.com. Check out the mailing list. I do an emailer every couple weeks where I kind of clue you into to who's on the show and all that. Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. You can find it all at 25o'clockpod.com. I hope that you go there. Anyway, we're going to keep this shorter and sweeter as far as intros go. I want to talk about Ben Tinsley real quick here. Ben Tinsley, whose music you can check out at bentinsley.bandcamp.com. That's BenTinsley, bentinsley.bandcamp.com. He put out an EP almost a couple of years ago is what we realized. But it's called Right Here With You. And it's a great, great record. And we talk about the process of him making it, and we talk about a whole lot of other things. Just a little background on me and Ben. Ben used to play in a sort of a soul funk band called Sabrosa around the same time in 2008, 2009, 2010, that kind of time right there, that I was pretty active in the music scene here in Philadelphia as well. And we played a lot of shows together because we all just liked each other. Didn't always make sense, I guess, thematically, that like sort of my band, which was sort of an alt country indie type band, and his band, which was like just a straight up soul funk band, would play together. But we just all appreciated each other so much, and we just liked each other just as people so much that it just made perfect sense for our bands to play together. So they did, and I'd like to think that anyone who came out to those shows got a little something extra because maybe you came for the soul funk of Sabrosa, and then you saw my band, or maybe you came from my band and you saw Sabrosa. That was always what we were trying to put together right there, was not necessarily music styles that meshed perfectly, but just a whole wide array of all the kinds of stuff that was available out there. But anyway, that's how I met Ben. And we've known each other ever since. He's an amazing dude, a great guitar player, a great singer, a great songwriter. He's got a huge heart. He's always looking out for people. He's always trying to help other people as well. I know that sounds like a big thing to say about someone, but every time he puts out a record or things like that, he tries to turn it into some sort of fundraiser for someone or something deserving, and I've always appreciated that about him. We talk about that quite a bit at the end of the conversation here. So we'll just get right into it right here. This is my conversation with Ben Tinsley here on 25 o'clock, and I hope you enjoyed. He's a great friend. I've been trying to get him on the show for a couple of years, but we've been schedules and stuff like that. But here it is, finally, at long last, my conversation with Ben Tinsley here on 25 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, our big thing moving out to the burbs there's a lot of factors, but one, we needed some more space. And I got 2 kids, man. I got 2 kids who will be in kindergarten soon.
Oh,
and,
God, yeah. My gosh.
And I know Philly schools. You know what I'm saying?
You are a veteran.
I'm a vet of the Philly schools.
Of being
system.
hired and fired by the
yeah, exactly. I've been fired from more schools than,
Oh, gosh. Not because, and for those at home, not because he's bad at it.
Yeah.
No. Gosh, like when I used to run into you, I'd always in the back of my head and be like, is he working or not working right now? I'm not sure. And it was always like, I watched other friends of mine who worked for a Philadelphia school system too go through exactly what you were going through, where they're just like from year to year, they're like, we have no idea.
You don't know, man. You're an
was it at will? Or?
At will. I almost said at risk.
There's no teacher. It is at risk. There's no union.
So I've only worked for one school where there was a union. But otherwise, I was always in charter schools, which are public schools, but they're independently run and blah, blah, blah. So you're at will, man. Every year, June comes around and
they can decide, you know what, we'll consolidate class and we'll lose 2 more. Oh, Jesus.
Just like that. And I honestly, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to this, but I believe it's by design, man. I believe that they have a setup that's like a 10-year business plan. They know they're going to get eventually run out of business, but they keep costs down by having the youngest teachers. Yeah. Kids
the ones who work for nothing. Who work just out of school.
Exactly. Who are excited to make $35,000 a year and bust their asses, work twice as hard as anybody else. Mm-hmm. Now that I work in a prestigious school. Yeah. If, for lack of a better term, we work so much harder in the city. Yeah. They just dump stuff on you. But that's part of the game, though. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I did almost 10 years in the city, and it was I know that I'm so much better prepared for what I'm doing now. Yeah. And I miss it in a lot of ways. A lot of me feels like almost guilty that I've abandoned the cause a bit. But I got to a point where it's just like, I got 2 kids at home, man, and I got nothing left to give my family at the end of the day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was just actually taking life away from me.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But somewhere in there, too, we'll jump around. You started a not-for-profit music school, though, like an art school.
Yeah.
Which I haven't heard you talk. I haven't heard you talk about it in a while, so I didn't know if it was still a thing that was happening, or if other people kind of took the mantle from you and kind of went from there.
It's a thing. It still is a thing. It's very much it's a shadow of what it once was. Yeah. But and a lot of that is just the evolution of my own life and what I need. So there was a time where I was doing that full time, and but from budget cuts in the city and me just needing to feed children, so now basically the bulk of what we do is in the summer. So we work with existing summer camps, and we'll go and teach guitar classes, theater classes, whatever. There was a time where we were working year round. We still do some stuff during the school year, but it's nothing like what it once was. Yeah. But
what was it called? That was Philadelphia Music Academy?
It started out Philly Music Academy, and then I switched that because it was just me teaching guitar after school. But then we started doing other stuff, so I switched it to Philly Arts Academy.
Yeah. That's great that's still happening. I wasn't sure if that was still still going on.
Yeah, man. It's this past summer we did a handful of camps, and it was good. And I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do in terms of the amount of kids that have been able to sit down with a guitar in their hands.
Oh, that's great.
Because of what we do.
And I mean, you got your hands on so many guitars. I'm
a crap ton of
guitars. I remember looking there and I was like, where did you get all these?
Yeah, man. And probably one of the beautiful things too, man, is how invested other people are who otherwise I'd say once once every 6 months, somebody's like, hey, man, I got this guitar that I don't play anymore.
Yeah.
I'd love to see somebody do something with it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Guitars are kind of like skis or golf clubs sometimes.
Exactly.
To a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's not to diminish those people, because like you get a guitar, you're like, I'm going to play. And then you realize like, it is really freaking hard to learn how to play the guitar.
Yeah.
I think you and I come at it from a similar way, where like you and I are surrounded by a lot of musicians where it seems like they just fall out of bed and just boom,
are amazing.
Are amazing. Whereas in like, I feel like you feel this way too, and I know I do, where I have had to freaking claw for every inch
I got,
every inch of technical ability that I have for whatever it is. Like I have had to just, I feel like I've had to work so much harder to do it, because it didn't, I don't want to say it didn't come naturally. The love came natural. But the like, I know guys who like knew theory before they even picked up guitars, and they could just be like, they could just come up with jazz chords, and they could come up with scales, and they could do the whole thing. And for me, I was still like trying to like plunk out like minor pentatonic scales and like do blues stuff. Like,
well, did you play in band as a kid?
No.
Really?
I was a choir kid.
Okay.
And I was a theater kid.
Sure.
And I would kind of like sort of weasel my way into guesting into jazz bands sometime, but I didn't even have the chops for that. Like I couldn't play jazz guitar. I couldn't play jazz
weasel
bass.
Your way.
Yeah, I would just sort of like, I would sit in the back like and watch all the jazz kids play, and every once in a while when someone put a guitar down and they started a tune, I would kind of pick it up for a second and be like,
sure.
I think I can do it, and it would no.
Yeah. Like, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was incredibly discouraging, but like thankfully, I don't know. Thankfully, I didn't want to play jazz. Like, I loved it. I loved listening to jazz, but like, I still am not really possessed with a yen to play jazz.
Yeah, well, recently I've gotten more into, because I feel like I worked super hard to get to however good I was, and then I coasted for 10 years.
Me too. I plateaued. I got better at bass than I ever got at guitar.
Yeah. I feel like I started out on bass and then I started on guitar, but so I sort of went in the opposite direction. But recently I've gotten more into like practicing, like working on stuff to become better. Like I'm not just tooling around, which in a lot of ways is great. But also part of it, I don't know, some of it takes away the passion and just the fun of it.
Well, you've got space to work now too. Like that is the biggest thing, especially for me when we got this house and I set up down here. Like part of it was like, this was going to be the studio for the podcast, and I was going to like, and I was just like, maybe I'll bring singer-songwriters down here and we'll like, demo or something like that.
Yeah.
But one of the other reasons that I put a room together in whatever, and like I didn't buy anything. I had all this.
Did you already?
A lot of it, yeah. We recorded the Sober Catch records and stuff like that on that board. Like,
I remember this from the old place.
Yeah, like various stuff here is just acquired over years and years, and even like from being a teenager. Like some of those amps are like from when I was a teenager. Some of these guitars are from when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But like when you finally get an adult space of your own to lay it all out,
changes everything, man.
Yeah, and I look around too, and I was just like, I got some stuff. Like,
I
used to think like, oh, I don't have anything, and I'm like, no, I have stuff. It was always packed away or in various basements or storage spaces or stuff like that.
Now you have your basement to pack all this stuff.
Yeah. And like someone gave me that piano behind you.
Really?
Yeah. It was like awesome. In someone's basement. And the girl in the relationship like turned to me and goes, "You can get this thing out of my basement, right?"
Sold. Done.
And the gentleman was just like, "Well, I think I might." She's like, "You don't talk."
No. You're like, adults are handling this already.
She's like, "Go get a zip card now. I will pay for it."
Hey, done.
And I did. I put it in the house, and I've gotten okay. Like not good, I don't think, but I can.
But you can tool around a little bit.
I can tool, and I find it a good writing tool. I don't know if I would perform on it, but like I'll come up with sort of chord voicings and structures and arrangements that I'd never come up with. Any other way.
Yeah, having the space for it. I mean, so since we've been in the new house, I got my room, man.
Yeah.
I got my room.
So. I heard about the room.
It's awesome. I mean, it's a work in progress.
Oh, yeah.
But like I got a ton of guitars on the wall. I got my little keyboard. I got my little, my little setup. So it's not, the thing is, though, being a dad and a husband and a teacher and all that kind of stuff, you still got to work in time to actually do that stuff.
Yeah.
So I find myself, because it is in a separate room, in a lot of ways that lends to being able to go and practice, but it also means you have to go and separate from everything else to go play.
Yeah, and sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, I mean, you got,
diapers and running and dinner and bed and bath and books
making lunches. Like, you know how much of my life is spent preparing for someone else to eat.
You just look at him and you'd be like, I think you'd figure it out at some point, buddy.
Come on, man. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get him to be the chimney sweep at this point. I'm tired of carrying all the weight around here too.
Let's take it back. You're from you're from Long Island, right?
I'm from Long Island, born and raised.
Where in Long Island? Because that's Long Island is specific enough for some people who've never been there, and then you need, like, at least for those of us like Northeasters or East Coasters, you're just like, we need a little more than just Long Island.
How about that? Yeah, I'm from a small town. It's called Center Moriches. We say Center Moriches, and then we realize that no one who's not from there understands what we're saying. But Center Moriches on the South Shore, really far out east. To put it in perspective, there are 70 exits on the Long Island Expressway. I'm exit 69.
Ah.
Second to last one.
Gotcha.
So that's how far out I am, yeah.
But, so, like, out there because that's a very ritzy area, or can be a very ritzy area of Long Island.
It is. I mean, it can be. And that's something I'm, like, super careful about how I present it to people, because the truth is, like, West Hampton is sort of like a neighboring town.
Yeah.
And if you say that to people who aren't as familiar with the area, they're like, oh, okay, this dude's from... it sends a different message. But the thing is, Long Island, like any other place, very much has its different areas and has its, like, segregation issues. And so it's not as simple as you might think that if you're from Long Island, Eastern Long Island, or even close to the Hamptons, that you necessarily come from a particular socioeconomic.
Well, it's old farm country too, even before it became a playground for like sort of a bedroom community for the New York elite. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing too, man. If you tell people who don't know,
if
you tell people you're from the state of New York, they're like, "Oh man, so what's Times Square like? Like, what's it like living in Times Square?"
Oh yeah.
But, like, I grew up in the woods, man.
Yeah.
I grew up in the woods.
It's like I was telling you upstairs. I grew up adjacent to the woods.
Yeah. Like, I mean, where I lived, everybody was on at least an acre, really, and we played in the woods.
Yeah.
So, and then that
rode your bikes and did whatever.
Yeah. And there are other. I mean, there was like a town. There's like a downtown section, and it's even built up now to where there's like bars and stuff there now. Yeah. But yeah, man, I grew up in the woods. I grew up, like, playing outside. It's not at all. I was not a city kid.
Yeah.
And it took me recently moving out to the burbs to remember that, because I've been in Philadelphia for almost 15 years now. So it's like I started to get used to, just like space-wise.
Yeah. Get used to your 700 square foot of house, and you just
really,
like,
man.
Okay, this works.
A friend of mine pointed this out, and it was like such a real, concrete, and eye-opening example. She's like, when you're at your front step here, someone could be within 4 feet of you, and that's not weird.
Yeah.
Like, someone could reach out and you could be touching them, and it's not like, why are you in my space?
Yeah.
Because you're in the city, and their stoop is...
That's their stoop,
8 feet. Yeah. And so when you compare that to, like, where I grew up, it's like, if I were ever putting my key into the door, the closest person to me would be 50 yards away. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way that anybody's that close to you. There's no way people can hear you talking.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, when I started playing music, I started playing saxophone and stuff. Like, my neighbors would say every now and then they could hear me, but it wasn't like there were no noise complaints because I was practicing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because I was, like, working on my stuff. So
you played sax when you were a kid. That was your foray in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just talking about this too. My father played saxophone when he was a kid, and that's all it took for me. It was like I knew I was going to do something.
Yeah.
And Dad played sax. So I went in to play alto. I think I played alto for a year. And then I went back to, like, rent another, you had to, like, rent or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went back to rent one, and they were all out. So the dude was like, "Oh, you're a relatively tall kid. Try this guy out." So he put me on tenor, and then I played that through high school. So,
like, jazz band and
Well, so
or whatever band they stick the saxophone in when there's no jazz band.
So there was a jazz. I don't think I played in the school jazz band, but where I grew up was also a super small town too. So like, if you were there was no difference between marching band and concert band.
Yeah, like, it was the same kids.
It was the same kids.
It was concert band outside.
Yes, for real.
With the hats.
Yeah, and the lyre or whatever.
Yeah.
But and everybody that was in band also like played sports and stuff. There wasn't much separation where I grew up. The people who were in all county band were also like, on the soccer team and all that stuff. So
activities,
so much room. So much room for activities.
So you're playing sax.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of music in your house?
Yes and no, man. My dad, I have all my dad's old records.
Yeah.
My dad was very much a music enthusiast, not a musician, but he loved music. My mom also enjoyed music, but she wasn't as active in making sure she had time to listen to it. The legend is that my father, he used to get paid every Friday, and every Friday he'd go to Mother's Music in Patchogue, New York, and buy whatever record was out and bring it home. And I have his old speakers, I have his old like stereo receiver and all this stuff. I got to get it all worked on, but he'd throw it on the turntable and sit down right at the focal point of the speakers and listen to whatever record he had. It's probably high as a kite too when he did. That's the part of the legend my mom tends to leave out. But so yeah, my parents were like very much into music, and they were like super supportive of my obsession with music. Like my brother's a bit older, so he had like gone away to college at one point. And I was still in middle school. So I was like I was the kid who would just like stay in and practice. I wouldn't even call it practicing at that point, but I would just be like, I used to buy those old CDs with the backing music and the sheet music, and I'd be playing, like, just doing that all weekend. And then when I started playing guitars and bass and stuff, it was the same deal. So yeah, a lot of music, but mostly just like support from my parents. And they loved the fact that I appreciated their stuff so much. You know what I mean?
What was your dad's stuff? Was it like soul R&B and all that? And
yeah, well, so if you go through like his records that I have now, it's like there's some of the shittiest disco. But there's also like
it was the 80s.
Oh yeah, man, he was Jerry curling it up in the 80s. But yeah, man, I mean, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Kool and the Gang, like all that stuff. I have a ton of like Otis Redding. He prides himself. He saw Otis Redding in the Barkays, I think was the name of his backing band. But he saw them like right before they all died in a plane crash or whatever. So a lot of older stuff. My mom was really into. She was a huge Aretha Franklin fan. So I grew up. That's what I knew. My dad was also really into reggae and stuff. So a lot of third world. I have 1,000 third world records. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shocking or I guess more surprising stuff too. My dad was a huge Rolling Stones fan.
Oh, cool.
Enough. I did not listen to that growing up, but he was a big fan.
I mean, they did rip off black music and put their own spin on it.
There it is.
So like, I can see your dad just being like, "Hey, these white boys doing all right. Yeah. They're okay." Which is often sometimes how I feel about the Rolling Stones. I'm like, pretty good there, white guys. Good
white
stuff.
Boys can do it. I think that's a direct quote from my pop, right?
But they really could. Like there was. I mean, that's the joy of the Rolling Stones, and like regardless of whatever like massive legend there is around the Rolling Stones, if you put on a certain era of Rolling Stones, you'd listen to it, be like, you can tell they love to play that music. It is not a put on. They're not doing it to. I mean, they're getting rich doing it. But
absolutely, and there's arguments about the exploitative nature.
Well, the whole 60s and 70s of like British sort of classic rock and American too. Like the whole, it's like who owes at some point someone owes someone a check,
big time,
like a lot of checks.
Yeah.
Like and the Motown guys too and all that. Like somebody owes a lot of people a lot of money who will never get that money.
They will never see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see that now. That didn't end.
No.
We see that now. I go through it myself. Like I'm a big Amy Winehouse fan.
Yeah.
But I think we went through this in the record club too. It's like, would I really be that impressed if she weren't some white British girl? Like if that exact record, if Back to Black was done by Jill Scott, would I be talking about it still?
Well, I'd be impressed that I would be concerned about Jill Scott, like having her life having taken the turn that it took to write back to black.
And that's not to take away from, because again, I'm a huge fan, but I just say that to
I feel the same way about Joss Stone too. Whenever I hear Joss Stone, I'm just like, or the classic example of like Dusty Springfield or Adele. I think the first time I heard Adele, I thought she was black or something.
Yeah, man. I mean, and countless examples with people who it's like you see that they're not black, and then it's like, oh, that white boy got soul. Alan Stone, that white boy got soul.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he's good, but is he better than like most of the black dudes who are nobodies right now?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like
he's just like some.
He's better than the Blue Notes, or
Yeah, man. And so I don't know. That didn't end necessarily, but
no, it didn't. Yeah. No, and it's funny too when you talk. I was just talking about Back to Black. That seems, I don't know. Time will tell on the real classic nature of that album. If we're still sort of playing out the tragic end of it all.
Yeah.
But I was talking to someone where they're just like, I said to someone, I said, yeah, I like Amy Winehouse, and they're like, you do? And I made the joke. I said, I think I like the snare and the kick drum the best.
Yeah.
But like from an audiophile standpoint, that is the first thing I notice on that record is just how tight that snare and kick drum sound. And the drummer, there's a series of studio drummers on it, but at least one of them, I think it was one of the guys who used to play in the Specials or something like that.
Yeah.
I know there's a connection right there.
Sure.
And so when someone told that to me, it was just eye-opening. I was like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. It made sense. Yeah, I mean, and I think about stuff like that. Anytime I'm nowhere near your level with that, but like Karen will make fun of me because I'm just like, yo, I can definitely hear a filter on.
No, but you are then, Emma, because that's what I do. I mean, like, and do you have a hard time turning it off sometimes?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And like to a point where I feel we're blessed to be able to do what we do in whatever way that it is that we do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in our room, like in the room we made for ourselves, or with our friends, and occasionally maybe out in a bar or a club a few times a year or something like that.
Yeah.
To me, that is perfectly acceptable, and that's coming off years of some pretty arduous touring.
Yeah. So that's something I've never done, man. I've never toured.
You're not missing.
No, I heard you talking about it in another podcast.
Not at this age. Like at this, like if you're gonna do it, you got to do it when you're young and you don't care about like physically what is happening to you.
Yeah, no, I'm not there, man.
Like no, I could at 36 now. Absolutely not.
Sleeping on futon or in a van.
Like I don't like going anywhere where I don't already know where we're sleeping and how nice it is.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like my parents' house, or because I work for a hotel property now. Like it's it's a hotel property. Like,
so
I get a discount on. I'm just
I got standards, man.
Oh, I do. Like, and I'm a campy guy too and all that. But like, if you give me, it's like, you want to camp, you want to stay in a Hilton. I'm like, Hilton every time.
Like, 10 times out of 10.
Like tell me about the breakfast bar.
Yeah. I'm choosing a mattress every time.
There's a Keurig in the room? Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, that's so fun, because I slept on floors and futons and in the van. God, used to sleep in the van sometimes because there was no room in the place. And sometimes because you'd be in a neighborhood where you're just like, you know what? It's best if one of us sleeps in the van.
Nah, dude. I'm good. So
you're not missing anything there.
No. But
what you did miss is kind of the all that drudgery and shit that happens throughout a period of being out on the road. When you can get up on like that 45 minutes is like the best release ever.
Yeah.
And especially when that 45 minutes like works.
Sure.
It's even better. Like, it's good just to get up there and do it. And like in the end, you just realize it's like I'm in a car and I'm playing rock music like with my friends, like with my best friends.
Sure.
Like, and we're gonna get on each other's nerves and everything's gonna seem awful. And then like for 45 minutes, like it will erase everything else that happened that day. Like,
we're back to
For like, you put the music on I didn't like, you took too long at the rest stop, blah blah blah. You fucked up the directions and now we don't know where we're going. And then like you play, like you just bang out a set. You're just like, I love you all. Let's never fight.
I love you guys.
Let's never fight again.
Until next week when we're playing in.
Until like 2 a.m. You'll be fighting at 2 a.m. because you're trying to figure out where the hell you can
Exactly.
And how much money you didn't make.
Yeah. Dude, look at the map. Just use a map.
God, I did used to tour with a map. Like before everything being on your phone.
No.
I like that everything's on the phone, but like I definitely remember printing out. I had folders
Yeah.
I was the guy with folders.
Like a solid binder for the tour. Like
there was a tour folder that sat in the front. It had directions to everywhere we were going, phone numbers, addresses, like everything. Just so, and we all had phones too. But it was kind of in that early day of cell technology where it's just like, in case everything shits the bed, I want to know where we're going.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I respect that.
No, it was great. I was the guy with the folder. It's like the Leslie Knope of.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly where my head went.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So you're growing up on the island, playing sax. When did you start playing the more rock and roll instruments?
I got into. So I dated a girl,
like
Kirsten Murray, who one of my first. I think that might have been my first girlfriend. But her dad played the guitar, and it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And looking back, I have no idea like how good he actually was.
No, you never do. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I was just blown away. And this was in 9th grade. Maybe before then, I'd seen people.
To see it up close too is something.
Yeah,
or like someone that you know. You're just like, I know that dude.
Yes.
Look what he can do.
Look at what he. So I remember seeing him, and then I went home because my mom had a guitar that was like tucked away, classical, nylon string. And I remember seeing it as a kid, but it was like tucked away in some closet. So I went home and I started like playing around with that. And then that same year, this kid, John Fredrickson, kid that I grew up with, who grew up down the street from me, he brought his guitar into class and he played Layla. And I was like, I know that song and you're playing it.
That song is from the radio.
Right? Yeah. And it was just that idea just blew my mind, man. Yeah. So that Christmas, I asked for a bass for Christmas. And I was there when we went to Guitar Center, which was like 1,000 miles away. And I was able to buy, the old school, like you get the bass and you get the amp. And
the tiny shitty amp.
Yeah.
And the cable that crackles.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got all that for probably like $80.
Yep.
But
the kit.
So, but I was so like obsessed with it that I was pleading with my mom about being able to play it before Christmas. And her whole deal was like, you can play the bass itself. You just can't use the amp until Christmas. So I had like a month, and to this day I like to play an electric bass sitting on my lap upright, sort of, because that's how I was able to listen to it.
Oh, you had it right up. Yeah, you could hear the vibrations. Yeah. That's funny.
So, and I had this chair, the only chair I could play in had arms, so I couldn't really sit it normally, but I learned that if you put the bass up against the arms, then you can feel the vibration even more. So to this day, I can play, like when I play bass, I like to play
you
it
sit in a chair with it wedged up against you, with no amplifier.
No amp. Because, hey, man, you make it work. So I did that. Then 10th grade, this is the longest way for me to answer this question. 10th grade, I was an exchange student in France for the year. And so I brought my bass with me then. And I actually that year, I bought my saxophone. I went to Royer Musique in Amiens, which is like a city about an hour north of Paris. And it's like the pretty well-known music store in the area. And I bought a tenor sax there that year for, forget how much I bought it for, but that's the sax that I have in my music room to this day.
You still play the sax?
I do not. I did for years, and then... it's been a long time. I did break it out, and I played it on the 4th of July this past year. I played to see if I could, I played the Star Spangled Banner, because I used to do that in high school. I used to play like for all the basketball games and stuff like that. I would play the national anthem, so just to see if I still had it. But my main thing now is that I played the sax. My wife Karen played the flute all through high school. So I have one of those stands that I got my sax, and her flute is on there, and somebody donated a trumpet. A family member was getting rid of a trumpet, so I have a trumpet, and we have 1 million guitars and pianos and stuff. So my goal is for the boys, my sons, when they grow up, that when it comes time, it's just like, boom, I'm playing saxophone, and there's one right there. Yeah, I'm playing the flute as well, and it's right there.
Cool.
And whatever. In the meantime, we fantasize about, there's like a community concert band in our township.
Oh, cool.
Now, so it's like, one day when we have a minute of free time, that will reignite the band.
Well, we don't have to keep the children alive constantly.
You know what I'm saying?
Keep themselves alive.
At some point, they could sustain life on their own. Yeah. So all that to say, man, I I got into guitar when I was like 14, maybe 13 or 14. And then I've been playing ever since, man.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw you play guitar, you were up on stage with an SG.
Yeah.
Just playing the smoothest freaking SG tone I ever heard. Yeah. I remember me and James standing, we look at each other. I go, is that an SG?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, how does he make it sound like that?
Yeah.
Because it was so smooth. And like, at least for us, we always knew the SG as being like the Pete Townsend guitar or Angus Young from AC/DC. Or like, it was like the baller guitar. It's like the real like riff rock guitar. And you're just playing it like I don't know what. And I remember just sitting there just being like, I remember going up and asking, and because I remember like, I don't think I even knew you really right then.
Yeah.
And I went up to ask you because I was like, I'm going to ask him about tone. Like, I'm going to ask him like 15 complicated questions about tone because he's got to freaking know what's up. And I'm just like, how'd you do it? You're just like, I plugged it in.
Yeah,
and,
hey, man.
It sounded like that, and that is how my guitar sounds now.
Yeah, yo, for real. And the thing is, I got that guitar, I bought it off of somebody, and that was like one of my first electric guitars that I had. But I mean, James makes fun of me to this day because it's like I play clean or like with a little bit of distortion. But like I don't do alternate tunings ever. I almost never play with a capo. Like I'm as simple as it gets. So I found a tone that was like just warm and clean enough.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how I got there necessarily, and part of me regrets that I don't know more about how to find the sounds. Like I'll hear stuff. I'll hear guitar tones. I'm like, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough of the inner workings to be able to, to make it
You just
happen.
shift dials until it sounds like what you want.
Which I've learned that most people who know, you know what I'm saying, that's what they're doing. They're just like playing around stuff.
You might have a bit of like the tool set to know which dial to move.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like move that one. No, that's not the one.
That's not the one.
That one.
Dude.
No, go back to the first one.
Yeah. But I that was my guitar. And like prior to then, I'd always played solo, so I was only playing acoustic. And then when I started working with Sabrosa, that's when I was like, okay, this makes sense to play like a lead-ish thing, So I had this electric, and I played around with some stuff and found a tone that I liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that the SG wasn't the guitar for that. It's just like it's an
it
electric
was just
guitar.
wild. I just been seeing the SG. I'm like, where'd you get an SG from?
Yeah.
Like, and like part of me too, just from being like a music guy, and I'm probably wrong with this. There's probably like 100 black guitar players who played an SG, but for a moment I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen a black guy play an SG before. like for no other reason. I'm just like, it's not like that's not allowed. I just
no. You weren't offended by it.
Like, never seen these two things together before. Yeah. Which again, is probably completely untrue. There's probably 100,
sure,
100 great black guitar players who play SGs.
I'm glad I was able to expose you to something.
Yeah. I was just like, wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, and too with Sabrosa, which is kind of when I met you, and we were all kind of playing the same clubs.
Yeah.
How did you meet all those guys? Like.
Yeah, man. Well, so I had met Dimitri, who played drums for Sabrosa. I met him probably that year, really, through Femi.
Yep.
But it turns out me and Dimitri both went to Temple, and we know a million people in common. We just never crossed paths while we were there. But we met then, and we started playing. So first, Femi had this idea of putting together this like funk-ish band. And so we started playing in my basement, the three of us. And then Dima was like, yo, I know this dude who plays bass, and he's kind of good. It's like, yo, you calling the Ox? Shit, that's all you had to say. So then he brought in the Ox, Mike Oxman, who's, as you know, is like one of the best musicians.
He's a phenomenal bassist, yeah.
Phenomenal. And, earlier you mentioned people who just get out of bed and they're ridiculous.
Just fall out of bed.
That's that dude, man.
Yep.
And then he had played with Kevin in a band before then. So
speaking also of guys who just fall out of bed.
However, I will say this, man. He is incredible, but Kevin is a dude who, like, he always would discourage me from taking voice lessons and stuff. He's like, yo, you just, to take the soul out. But he's classically trained, first of all. Yeah. His mother is a piano teacher. Yep. He works on, like, rudiments and stuff all day. Like, he's never not he practices for like 4 hours a day, every day for 35 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He is incredibly talented, and he's like one of the best musicians ever, but he's not a guy that happened by accident.
No, not at all. And
he's the hardest working musician.
I mean, he backed us up for a bit too. He was our touring keyboardist for a while.
Yeah.
And I would watch him like play like etudes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And I used to think, I was like, my God, it's just, and I asked him, I said, you can just do that? He goes, no, it's just like, I worked for years and years and years and years and years to be able to like make that look like I'm sneezing. Like,
exactly. I mean, for real, he puts in 4 hours a day. I'm not making that number up.
No, he's probably the best keyboardist. He's the best keyboardist I've ever played.
Ever. Yeah.
Piano, organ. He's a phenomenal organ player.
Yeah, man.
Which is like a whole separate thing right there. I'm like, I've played guys who are great piano players.
But can that translate?
And when they go to organ, they're good, but it's not the same. Like, don't have that sameness right there.
Yeah.
But you get him on an organ too. You're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. He's so good, man. And the thing is, so we started playing together, and then the sort of bad part of this story is that the guy who had the idea in the beginning, Femi, he sort of like naturally bowed out / got phased out, and I always felt. I felt kind of bad about that because it was like, he's the dude that brought us all together. Yeah. And he was, he to this day, Femi's my brother. So that he sort of like wasn't there for whatever bit of ride we had together. Was
it's always an interesting ride too.
Yeah.
You guys would play on some very interesting bills too. Like the one soul funk band, like playing on the stage with like a million like grungy, stonesy, indie rock type bands. But I think that spoke to sort of that particular. I hesitate to use the word scene because, like, people would say, "Oh, that's not the Philly scene. The Philly scene was this," and that person may just be speaking to their particular group. It's your group. It's your class is what it is.
The class, exactly.
So like I felt like our little class right there kicking around Dobbs and Connie's and
Triumph.
And
man,
Triumph.
I had so much fun playing at Triumph.
Every time I go back to that place, and it's great now too. It's still a cool place to like go and eat and like get a drink. But every time I walk back, and that whole space where the performance space was, it's all tables. Not every time I walk past, I just look at it for a second. I think to myself, that was probably one of the most fun stages I've ever played on.
And it wasn't a real stage. That's the thing that it's like
just a slightly elevated part of the floor.
Behind like some weird pillar and stuff. The sound was like...
I used to always get stuck behind the fence.
Exactly. But it was something about that spot and like... I mean, it was one of the few places, mostly because it was primarily a restaurant and brewery that... There was always like a built-in crowd there, so you'd end up playing for a crowd. But
that's what I always loved about there, is that you would, when we were able to start putting bills together, when we stopped going through whatever promoter or whatever person was booking in there, that happenstance one time that it happened where like the people in charge were just like, oh, you mean you guys can just like do this? Yeah, sure, then you do it.
Yeah.
We used to put together nights. And like people would just come because it was Old City.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it was like a different era of Old City, and who knows? That's probably just me speaking to my experience. But I felt like I felt like the vibe in Old City was different back then than it is now. I mean, it was never a hot spot of like, it wasn't like a jazz cafe in Montreal in the 70s or something like that. But it was a cool spot, and interesting people would come through. I remember that's the first time I ever met Marcus Harris, MH the Verb. He's in Brooklyn now. No, he's back in Philly. He's a hip hop artist. Okay. And I met him randomly by chance because he just came up on stage when we didn't have a fourth band, and so we just
rocked a quick set.
People came up and he got up and like laid down some rhymes. I played some bass. Like he turned to me, he goes, "You play Rapper's Delight?" I'm like, "I don't think so, but
I'm up here, so let's do
it."
Yeah.
But it was cool, and you would always play and like the nuts and bolts side of it is everybody made money.
Yo, and the thing is, man, everybody made money.
Like, not all the money. None of us were quitting our jobs, but like, we all made money.
But you made enough to pay the parking ticket that you inevitably got from being
parking in Old City. Yes.
But I talk about that era, for lack of a better phrase, man. I talk about that time, it was such a great time, man. Yeah. And it's like, you know that I don't know if you're a big Office fan, but in the last season when Andy's like, I wish you could know that you're in the good old days before they're the good old days, or something along those lines. It's like with you guys, and I remember like the Absolute Zeros and stuff, and I just loved that band, and like the Parsnip Revolt, other guys who I've always been like a huge fan of that band, and we were just in this circuit.
And guys like what was Katie Barbado's band before she went solo? It was her and oh god, this is gonna bug me. But them, like
yes,
them,
yes, man.
It was god, that really gonna bug me. It's right on the tip of my like and guys like Alex Stewart.
Yeah, man. There was so many great, and the thing is, to your point before, that like we didn't necessarily fit style wise, but there was an energy and like a mutual love and respect.
Yeah, that
was I've never felt before, and I feel like that was a time where, like, I remember when you guys came out to watch us play. Yeah, and it was like, we met these guys once before. And they just liked our stuff, and they're here and they're showing love, and like came out to see you guys, and we like genuinely like your music, and we admire you guys as people. Yep. I mean, here we are,
poached half your band at one point or another.
Yeah, for real. That is real. That happened. You took my band.
But it was fun, and like everyone. And like we would play, and like we would jump up in each other's sets and stuff like that, and like,
man.
And it was just this great community, and like it was by no means like a famous thing, but it was just it was a joy to go out, and at least because you never know what you're gonna get in an audience, and you never know if you're gonna get the people in the door, or if the people are in the door, if they're even interested or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's always a crapshoot, no matter how hard you try, no matter how known or not known you are, it's always a roll of the dice. But if you know that you're rolling into a show and the other two bands on the bill are your friends, and if nothing else, like you're at least going to kick back, maybe have a couple drinks, and like enjoy the company of like these like 8 other dudes. Yeah.
And like know their songs. Like get to the point where it's like, can you guys play this one? Mm-hmm. Like I really like this one. My Father's Watch. Like, can you guys do that one? Yeah. Because I'm a big fan. Yeah, there was something about that time, man. And I mean, again,
age too. I think we were the right age. We're all in our like late 20s, like mid to late 20s.
Yeah. Well, I'm like,
our eyes bolt to the same thing.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I will say, however, you got a couple years on me, man. Yeah. So I was like, you know what I'm saying?
But still, like you're in your 20s, like
no,
and you're kicking around. I mean, and none of us, none of us had kids. Like none of us.
That was before
had like.
I got married. I got married in 2011, so that was like 2010, 2011. I remember like Kevin played at our wedding. So, but yeah, it was like pre-kids and stuff. But and one of the things that I liked about Sabrosa too, which I think in the end also was part of our downfall, was that we all had lives outside of the band too. So we loved it and we poured ourselves into it, but we also weren't fighting because it's like, dude, I got to eat off of this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think that in the end ended up lending to like us not really pushing harder than we should have. And we were like a bit too cocky, and we liked the fact that like, oh, we barely try, dude. Yeah. Like we're just, we got the Yox on bass. We got Kev Simon on keys.
I used to say that to you guys too. I'd be like, you guys are good. I'm like, and you guys were great. But I used to always think to myself, I'm like, you guys would be unstoppable if like
you tried a little bit.
You like, for me, I was just like to me, I always wanted you guys to make a record, just because simply the discipline that goes in making a record, just that alone can really sharpen a band up. And even if they only ever make the record, then go a band after it's made its first record and really like gone through that process, then you see them go out on stage and it's a different beast. For better and for worse.
But, for sure. Yeah, and even now, like whatever little bit I've learned about recording and all that, now it's like we could have put something together.
Yep.
We could have put something together on the cheap that would have had something to hand people, because every time we played out, someone's like, yo, you guys are really good. We'd love to hear it again. Or where can we hear your music? And we're like, well, there's a video of someone. Nowhere. Yeah. It's like, dude, make a SoundCloud account. You know what I'm saying? Just put something together. We had nothing. And like I think we rode that a little bit too cockily.
You wrote that like a badge of honor. It's like, we don't even have records.
Exactly, like for real. And
like
I
that's
think,
like in the end, that's a thing to brag about.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, wait, why are we bragging about?
Yeah, why on earth are we bragging about that? But we were just being dickheads, and again, like I said, the positive end of that is that we did have lives outside of it, and we were doing things. Like I've been a teacher. That's like actually, I don't know if today someone were like, "Yo, you can do music full time." I would do it, obviously. Yeah, I don't even know why I brought that up. Okay. But no, but and like Dimitri, he's like very passionate about what he does. I don't think he would abandon his life to be on the road and like to have a life that was like less certain or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And obviously the Ox is married with a beautiful little boy now too. So we all had lives outside of it, which meant that we lived those lives.
Yeah.
And that we didn't really sacrifice them as much as perhaps we should have or could have at some point.
And part of that was like our expectations on other bands too, because like at least for us, like we were, I don't know if we were in it to win it, but like we were in it. Yeah. And so when we would see like another talented band, because trust me, we played with enough bands that like were also in it, that I would kind of sit there and think like, maybe you shouldn't be in it. Like,
consider your options.
Consider not being in it.
Yeah.
And so when you see a band like that, you just like, look, we're not saying you guys got to quit your jobs and like, do this, that, but like,
quit your jobs.
But like, maybe just a little more.
Yeah, give it something, man. And again, looking back, hindsight, 2020, all that stuff. But I don't regret it. I wouldn't change things because I really, really appreciate that time. And, after the band sort of fizzled, me and the Ox played a bunch of shows together, just the two of us.
And now you and Dimitri are playing shows
Me and Dimitri are playing shows now too, which is awesome. And it's a whole different thing. But we have history, and we have history in our chemistry.
Yeah. The personalities are there.
Yeah.
And then everything on top of that is just getting filtered through that personality.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I agree. There are certain people that I can just sit down and play with.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, like you've seen over the last couple of years, there's been a couple. I mean, there was one like full actual reunion, and then like one sort of like thrown together reunion one night at Connie's of The Way Home, and that was just me, James, and Nick. We like rehearsed for like, I think the set itself was 25 minutes out of James's set. I think we rehearsed 10 minutes for a 25-minute set.
Yeah,
so,
because it's like, yo, remember this song?
Remember
okay,
this one?
cool. Let's just go
do
over
the
this
beginning
change.
and the end, so I remember.
We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Done. Move on to the next song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's part, especially that on stage thing. That's just like, I know your moves. Like, I know when you're gonna head here or when you're not. We communicate really well, and that's what me and Dimitri are now at this point. And I met Bob through that too. So me and Bob have played shows together. Bob Tomarelli, who is
another
again,
guy falling out of bed. He's another guy though
so
that
good.
I can see the work that he puts into it sometimes.
Absolutely.
He's very versed in the technicality of his guitar playing, which is not something, and that is often the indicator sometimes when someone can talk the game as well as just play. They're just like, oh, you had to learn the language.
And you'd put in the work to learn that. Yeah. Well, what's sorry?
No. I'd say, and just also his knowledge of gear too, and all that. Which is like,
which I've learned so much from him. Like I mentioned before, I don't know anything about like how to recreate tones and stuff, but whatever I do know was really just sort of watching him and let him. Like I'll go over to his house and we'll play, and he for whatever reason like thinks that I'm good enough to play with him. I am not, but I'll just let him geek out about like whatever it is, the little modifications that he did on his amp and whatever other little tone stuff he's working on. So but yeah, he's a dude who's worked really hard. He also I recorded this like EP,
and I want to go there.
Yes,
this is good. Yeah, let's go there.
And
that was 2 years ago. I was.
It'll be 2 years in May.
Yeah, because I played at least one track on it on the show.
Oh yeah,
but that was definitely like within the end of the first year or something like that. So
yeah, man. It'll be 2 years in May, which is and now I listen to it. I'm like, dude, you didn't know anything about this, and you could have done. But I recorded that on an iPad, And like, I'm very proud of the fact that, you know, you grow as a musician, as like a recording engineer, as like a mixer and all this kind of stuff.
Well, what pushed you to really make that EP? Because up to that point, you'd never really made anything. Like, I knew you played, I knew you wrote, I knew that you could get up in front of people and do it. But like, what kind of pushed you to be like, I'm finally going to put some stuff down?
The fact that I'd never done it. You know, I turned 30 that year, and I was just like, I've never recorded something that I felt like proud of and I could put on a table and slide over to somebody and say, here's what I did.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the process. So like I really got into like learning about recording and even like mic placement techniques and stuff. So little stuff like that. So I was sort of using myself as the guinea pig there. And what I learned from that, you know, talking about these different musicians, is like I had the aux played bass on everything. And on one track, I had Bob played guitar, laid down like a solo on one song. And the difference between the two, Bob did one solo on one song, the aux played the bass on 5 songs. I spent probably 5 hours having Bob like work through this one solo. Just like, we probably did like 150 takes, and he just like was never satisfied. And to this moment, he's like, dude, I hear this thing that I did. Yeah. He's such a perfectionist in that way, and he's never satisfied, which drives him. And on the other hand, the aux, he played bass on every song, and he did one take for everything, and he was done, and it took 40 minutes. And he was just like, yo, here it is, done. Like, he's a guy, he's also a perfectionist, but he's like, he's
he had
hard
probably
on himself
prepared already, too.
Yeah, he prepares for it, and he approaches being in the studio differently, but in terms of like the self-satisfaction, and this is not a dig at all, but he like knows when he nailed it, and he's like, I'm done.
That's it. Well,
Move on to the
he knows
next
he's like, that is the best I'm gonna do. So
yeah, it's like yo, that
we
was
could
dope.
belabor and do 3 more takes just in case through like luck of the draw, I play 2 bars differently.
Yeah,
but like,
or we could take this and
or we just use it. Yeah,
because it's really good. Yeah, and that's just 2 different musicians. You know, it's 2 different. But and I learned through that. You know, I really like that process of, I had Billy Rose play drums on one track too, who's one of my favorite people in the world, and I don't know that he knows that, but if he ever listens to this, Billy, I love you.
He does listen.
He's such a good dude, man, and I went over his house one day, he played drums on this one track, and I just had, because we were both learning together, and he had like studied the tune a little bit, and I learned how much I really enjoy that process. So like, it is my song or whatever, but I'm not the musician in that. In that
you took on also the role of producer.
Yeah.
Which is in a lot of times even more difficult when you're doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to other people's stuff. Because other people's stuff, you can kind of get detached. You can kind of make what can seem like harder calls or more severe calls.
Sure.
And be like, you know what, cut that whole thing out, whatever, we're not
this
using
is dumb.
it. But like, because it was you and it was your song and you've gone through all the work to do it, you're just like, I don't know, everything's personal now.
Yeah. Which, you know, and part of me was like, you and I talked about doing something, you know, and it was like, for we hang out once every 2-3 years, despite how much I want to hang out every weekend. But it was like, at a certain point, I was like, you know, this is for me. Yeah. And so it's okay. In whatever ways it's compromised because I'm not that good, it's okay, because I want this to be a reflection of where I was at that point. Yeah. This is what I knew about mixing at that point. This is what I knew about production. This is what I knew about. So, you know, and just whatever other like ownership and what's the word? Ownership and just like protective territorial, not territorial, but like, you know, this is my baby and whatever. So
no, I absolutely understand that. And it is something to want to sort of helm the ship, regardless of the quality of the particular ship. You're like, whatever.
If this is my ship, I'm going down with this.
Be like, we're going this way, whether we're going to be able to do it or not. Like,
this is what it is.
No, so. I do that all the time, because there are people that I want to work with sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't know, because then they're going to make me do stuff that I don't know how to do. They're going to ask me questions about stuff. Can you do this? And I'm going to be like, no, I can't.
Oh, good. Nope.
How about this? Nope, not that either.
Nope. No, I can't do that either.
Can you play that better? No.
I'm sorry. The answer to your question is no.
I'm like, and I just don't want to answer those questions publicly.
Yeah. So there's something about like, you know, being a hermit. sitting in your own space.
And also, too, you don't feel like you're wasting anybody's time. Like, really, in the end, like, when you're helming your own project, you're just like, look, it can take me 4 hours to figure out, like, how to EQ this thing, but that's my 4 hours. Like, no one else was standing behind me being like, look, you idiot, it's this. Like, I had to get there. And that always makes you better.
Sure.
Like, really struggling to get those first few steps out. And then once you've got it, then you can piggyback off your own work and, like, you can go faster. And you can be more proficient at making what you want to make.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun with that, man. And I'm working on a new one right now.
I was going to ask if you were kicking around any ideas for new things.
I am, man. I've been playing around with this stuff, and especially now that I'm in this new house and I have a space for it. I really want to try to lay down some more stuff this week because I'm off for. Yeah. I don't know when this will air, but right now it's approaching Christmas, so I'm off for a while, and so I really want to take some time to like just record it and get it out. And the last one I just literally like one day I was like, okay, it's done. Here you go. Like I just said on Facebook, like here it is. Yeah. This time around, I'd really like to like sort of make a little bit bigger a deal about it and a little bit more fanfare. So plan a show and so this is the other thing, and I'll shamelessly plug this sort of, is that I always do fundraisers. My big thing, I have these like random fundraisers that I do. I try to raise money for people from wherever. And so with this EP, the first one I ended up doing, I vowed to split whatever money I made, and we ended up the money was going to go towards a gift card, a super fresh gift card for this family that I know from teaching. And the woman, she's a great woman. She's got 5 kids, and 3 of them are triplets, and they're 15 now, but I had them in 2nd grade.
All 3 of them?
Yeah. I had all 3 of them when they were in 2nd grade, and they were just, they were knuckleheads, but they were good kids. I used to like pick them up and take them out on the weekends and stuff, whatever. So I hadn't seen them in a long time, and I bumped into them on Halloween that year. So like I just had this idea of giving her a gift card and saying like, hey, thank you for raising good boys. Yeah. And here you go. And like to give other people an opportunity to sort of like be a part of something cool. So it was cool. And I dropped it off to them and like, wrote a little card that was saying that. It's just like, again, thanks for being a good mom and for whatever. And there are people rooting for you. So it was a really cool way to just like, make it feel less like the music was just about me. And,
because in the end, you're just like, I'm just putting out a record.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, not everyone, but amongst our circle of friends, like, it seems like everyone can put out a record.
Yeah.
So, like, to attach it to something else. And that's something that's kind of come up into my head, too, especially as this year has kind of taken the turn that it has, as I kind of examine, not activism in a way that we know of it. Like, I'm not going to like go out there and get arrested.
No.
Unless I do. I mean, I don't.
No, I will not.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm not trying to get arrested for anybody.
I think about what I do with the show and then what I do when I write music and like, I don't know, the idea, and it's just sort of the nature of the music industry now too. It's like the idea of just me putting out a record under my name so that people will like my record under my name. Yeah. Just seems kind of, the self-serving nature of it seems trite and just seems completely inappropriate and I could be, and we could be jumping a ghost or we could not be right now, but like there seems like I feel like we're gearing up for something much bigger than ourselves in these next few years. And so I think to myself, like, I'm going to spend the time making music. Like, it's just going to be a thing, and I'm going to keep making this show. Sure. So it's like, what do I do with it then? Like, other than it just being, hey, it's a thing I do and pay attention to me.
Pay attention because it's my cool thing.
It's my cool thing. It is my cool thing, and I want people to pay attention to the cool, not even so much me. I mean, I'm on it. My voice is on every one of them. So, but
it is your cool thing. And by the way, I couldn't be more proud of you, man. And this is so cool, dude. I remember when you were just kicking this idea around. And
remember, I originally wanted to make it to be kind of like, because we had like record club, like a book club, but for records. And I had this whole complicated way of like making a podcast about record club. And then somewhere in that, I was just like, you know what? This is like, I said to myself, like, this is like being in a band. I'm trying to involve so many people, like who I want to be a part of this thing that I think is going to be fun and cool. Sure. Yeah. But in my mind, I was just like, why don't you just do it yourself? Like,
just do it. Just dude. And you did, man. Yeah. And you're like 50 something episodes in, and they're dope. And this is really cool. This is a cool thing that you made.
It
did not exist before.
It's a cool thing that I made. But as I think about it, and you think about it like with your record stuff like that, I'm just like, it can't just be about me. Like it can't just be about celebrate the thing that I did. But I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I don't know how to direct it in a way other than money. But like,
which, you know,
and that helps. I mean, like there's a lot of groups who need it. There's a lot of groups who needed it anyway under the last 8 years anyway. So that need is not going to go away, and it probably will not even lessen. So,
yeah, I mean, and I'm sort of one of the things with whatever little fundraisers that I do is that I try to like steer them towards like personal things.
Yeah.
You know, I want to raise money for that kid.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, you know,
we're going to raise money for this charity, use money to kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And then again, I mean, you know, that's those things do a great amount of good as well.
Absolutely,
but
far more than I
ever could. When you can personalize it, you can see a result.
Yeah, and I've learned that in terms of like getting people behind it, people are that much more excited. You know, a couple years ago, we raised money for that kid. We bought his guitar and we got him lessons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just some kid that I met. You know, I met some kid in Sam Ash, and he was like He had a guitar on layaway.
It's like plunking down his like $10 every week.
Yeah, man. And it was just like, I had this flashback when I met him. He was such a goofball, but like a super nice kid who was so excited about this guitar. I think total it was like, I forget how much it cost, but it was like a $400 guitar or something like that, which was going to take him 7 years to pay off. But I had met this kid and he was just like such a good dude. And I came back home and was talking about it on Facebook and people were like, yo, it'd be really cool if we could like help him.
Yeah.
And in 3 days, we raised over $1,000.
Yeah.
Paid off his guitar. We got him lessons. We got him a case, like all kinds of stuff. We just like hooked this kid up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had to go to Sam Ash to make sure that was possible, that you could pay someone else's layaway. But I say all that to say people were so excited because it was some kid. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, I'm raising money. I did say that I was going to raise money for VH1 Save the Music, and we did end up like donating a couple hundred after we took care of this kid, EJ. Yeah. But people were just pumped about the fact that it was EJ. It was like a kid.
Because all of us, too, could remember being a kid and like wanting a guitar. All of us musicians remember wanting the thing that we just didn't seem like we were ever going to be able to have. You know? And if you could just like, if you could sort of like guardian angel a kid, even just for like a second.
Exactly. Because again, you remember that. You remember going to whatever, where I lived was Guitar Center, but it's like we would go, I got paid at whatever summer job I had or whatever, and you drop $40 down, but I'd stay there and play for 2.5 hours on that guitar.
I bought that Bandit right there. I bought in high school, and that was
this one right here. Yeah,
the black amp behind behind the case. I bought that. That was my first electric guitar amp. And I bought that off of like babysitting money and working a grill at a local burger joint, and like bought that amp because I needed a Boss sounding amp.
Yeah,
and that thing still works. Yeah, those things are tanks.
Yep, that thing is like 40 years old now.
I don't know how old that is. Like, and there's guitar, like there's a guitar in there that like I bought it because I didn't have any money and I somehow made money happen.
Yeah, I mean, and so when we can tap back into that, it's nice. So that said, man, I really want to. I haven't figured out what I want to do, but I don't want to try to finish or release this next thing before I figure out like how I'm going to make it not so much just about me. Yeah, you know, and do something else. And you know, I can't pretend that there's not a certain amount of like self-promotion and being like, hey, this is a cool charitable thing that you can be part of, so listen to my music.
And anyone who makes a record for themselves, you can never claim it's a selfless thing, because it's like it's basically putting a thing out being like, you know, pay attention to me.
Yeah. Look at me.
Even just for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Even if you hate the music, listen to it because I'm a nice guy who raises money for me. But, you know, we can still be of good use, man.
Yeah.
And I will say, to sort of like push back on that idea, my grandmother is 93 years old, and she started piano lessons 2 years ago.
Oh, that's great.
Started. And she can play a couple of scales, and her hands are all, you know, arthritis out and all that. But she started piano lesson. So every time I'm like, dude, I'm too old for this stuff. I'm not about to learn anything new. I'm like, well, Nana,
Learned to play piano at 91.
At 91, like in her 90s. She was like, yeah, well, I'm not trying to sit around and,
Yeah.
So.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we are certainly not too old to learn some new tricks, man. And as much as I feel like it and my back is hurting even sitting in this chair right now.
We're just full of physical complaints.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's true. I'm not saying that we're not going to learn.
No, I know.
But it's not like I'm going to make any. It's not like you and I are going to make any radical lifestyle changes.
Yeah. Especially now, especially in this time where we are. You're still in school right now?
Yeah, I'm finishing up.
Nice, dude. That's awesome, man. Which, P.S., I'm super proud of you with that too, man. Even
we're making
that
it happen.
Yeah, man. So all that to say. Life happens, and it's about finding some balance to be able to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And in due time, man. I'm realizing now a recurring theme in my life is that there are recurring themes in my life, and that there are these waves that happen, and I'm learning to not fight them. So, tangible examples is I have crippling stage fright. Crippling stage fright. But every time I go up and I'm dying, and then I survive. And it's for the longest I was trying to meditate on this stuff and be like, dude, why are you getting so nervous? Don't get so nervous. It's that's part of the cycle, dude.
Yeah.
You get super nervous and then you get over it.
Yeah.
So not fighting that. And not fighting the fact that I'm about to have a whole bunch of New Year's resolutions and they will not last. And it's I'm not going to beat myself up for that. Every year I spend a month and a half being a really good person. And that's okay.
And then by mid-February, it's
done. Dude, I'm just moving on.
It's tiring.
Yeah. And it's all good. So that said, it's I'm part of me is waiting for this time in my life where I'm operating at optimum efficiency and I'm doing all the things that I want to do and I'm taking time out of my day. It's you know what, man, I go through phases where I'm actually recording and I'm doing all this stuff, or I'm actually writing stuff and whatever. It's okay. I'll hit a wave and I'll be okay. But in the grander scheme, in the past 5 years, I've recorded some stuff, I've written some stuff, I've worked out for a couple of weeks. I've done some cool things if I measure on a 5-year scale versus how come I whatever, I wasn't able to not eat meat this week. It's this year I ate pretty healthy.
Yeah, okay. No, it's all about making small adjustments and just kind of coasting with those adjustments, maybe just altering a habit or
yeah.
I'm kind of in a similar place with the meat thing too.
Are you?
I'm gonna freaking eat meat, man.
Because it's delicious.
It's the best.
Really, it's the best.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. Whatever. It's probably not the best. I don't know. I don't care. But it's what I know.
I would argue that objectively it's the best. I don't think that there's a real argument to be had.
But I don't. And like I said, some weeks I'm great, and some weeks I'm not.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
It's just what. And I've been able to do some big things, but overall, it's just take a little bit at a time. And for me, and lately, it's been I'm trying to write more.
Yeah.
Even if it's crap,
right.
Just write the crap, because after you write enough, amidst the crap, something decent has to come out.
Yeah.
And that's why I like putting these projects together that I do off on the side, these one-off things. 'Cause I'm just you got to have something to work for.
Yeah.
Just being in a band, you get together and rehearse right before the show because you have a show.
Sure.
So
Sure.
If I put a project in front of me and be in February, you're going to go record with 2 other people who are going to be way more prepared than you. So
step your game up.
So you better start doing some stuff.
Yeah, sure. I like that. Man.
Yeah,
That's
and
really
you
cool.
better start doing it now so that you're not running around and doing it at the beginning of February.
Yeah. Yeah. And history would say that I would be the dude still running around in February trying
I'll still be running around in February because I don't like any of the things I did in December. But that's, I mean,
true.
Again, like I said, acknowledging that is a thing that is going to happen.
It's who I am, man. And I'll try to make little adjustments, but at a certain point, it is who I am, and it's worked. It's worked to a degree, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being that dude.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you want to play?
I might play a little something, man.
That's cool. Yeah, it's up to you. I don't know. We didn't really talk about it one way or the other at the beginning.
Yeah.
People who have stuff are welcome to play. You also don't have to play if you don't want to. There are things down here that one can play.
Yeah. I do see. Quite an arsenal.
Yeah.
I might play a little something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get you on that Martin right there. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I want to leave my troubles behind, and I want to go to a new space and time. Lord, you say that victory would be mine, and one day I leave my troubles behind. And nobody knows better than you, Lord, the road I'm walking. Sometimes I feel tired and weary, trying to get it together ain't easy to do. Lord, yeah, I prayed so hard. Sometimes I wonder if you hear me. Aches and pains in my bones. Lord, I want to come home and finally feel you standing near me. Hey, Lord, I want to leave my troubles behind. I wanna go to a new space and time. Lord, you say that victory would be mine, yeah. And one day I leave my troubles behind. Lord, you say that victory would be mine, and one day I'll leave my troubles. One day I'll leave my troubles, yeah. One day I'll leave my troubles behind.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Oh, man, thank you, man.
I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah, it's about time, man. And I'll be back if you'd have me.
Oh, hopefully in less than 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you. Honestly, man, this has been great.
No, this is great.
Really
Thanks
a
for
pleasure.
being here.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Yeah.
We'll be together till the end of time. 25
Well, that's the show for this week. Thanks so much for checking us out. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks in a huge way to Ben Tinsley for being on the show. Like I said, go check out his music, bentinsley.bandcamp.com. That's BENTINSLEY. bentinsley.bandcamp.com. Awesome dude. Awesome conversation. I'm so glad they have him on. As I may have alluded to in like maybe the emails or some of the stuff about as I wrote about this episode, he and I get together on such a rare opportunity that it was nice just to have him in the room, man. Sometimes you don't see people for a long time, and you just want to get them. You just want to get them back in a room and hang out. Thankfully, I have a podcast where I can kind of like use that as a reason. But really, in the end, if there's someone out there, if there's people, friends, whatever that like you want to reconnect with, just go do it. Don't wait till the new year. Don't wait for a New Year's resolution. Do it now at the holiday time. I don't know. Like, reach out to people. Say, hey, we used to hang out 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and we were tight. And maybe, adult life has gotten in the way and we don't hang out as much anymore. But I still want to hang out, so we should do it. I don't know. Do that. Do exactly that. And check out Ben's music at bentinsley.bandcamp.com. Ooh. Happy holidays to you all. Happy New Year's. Well, thanks for another great year here at 25 o'clock. Thanks for listening to the show, downloading it, listening to it, sharing it with friends. I really do appreciate it. I really do. This wouldn't be nearly as much fun if I didn't know people are out there listening. So thanks as always for being out there listening. And hey, if you need some gift ideas, go to 25o'clockpod.com, go to the Friends and Neighbors page, click on your favorite artist in the Friends and Neighbors page, and click on them and buy their music. That's a good gift for them and for you. 25o'clockpod.com. I've solved it. I've solved all your gift-giving needs right there. Anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the show. This is the last show of 2016. I hope you all have a great holiday. I hope you all have a happy new year. Until next time, this is Dan Drago, and this is 25 o'clock. Take care of yourselves.